Yeah, we are live. We managed to fix that. Yay. Hi, Ramya. Thank you for coming back and joining us again. Welcome back. Hi, Tanvi. Well, we may have missed a lot of your comments because of our technical glitch, but we're happy to answer them now. Hi, Tanvi. Welcome back. Okay. Oh. Yeah, I could actually. While we're waiting, we have a question
So,
here. Can you explain
so we were
signs of
talking
weight
about
loss?
information over the internet. Can you just elaborate a little more on because someone had mentioned a question, and obviously it's not there any longer, but somebody was saying that recommendations on how you can keep yourself positive amidst all the information overload.
So the very first step to do first aid to this nervous system, and I call it first aid because it's autonomic and you can't control it, is to acknowledge it. To, sometimes when we are under so much pressure from outside, I think there's a huge narrative about saying be positive, be positive. But when you're actually feeling something, and everybody else tells you to just forget that feeling and be positive, that's a little bit dismissive of you as a person. So the first step is to be able to name. And so in the work that we do in terms of nervous system regulation, we say name it to tame it. So first thing, you acknowledge that yes, this is what is making me either anxious, or it keeps coming in my mind, or I've heard this story. Naming it. If you have somebody who can hear you, that'll be a wonderful first aid to your nervous system. To be heard is the base, is the complete bedrock of humanity. To be seen, to be heard, to be witnessed. This is what we need. So tell somebody, but if you don't have anybody, write it down. You are your own witness. There is a divine in you. And of course, the baby's there as well, remember? So the baby is your witness. So name it, saying that, I heard this from my friend, and then this is what is bothering me. And write it down, and then slow it down. See how that feels for you. And then you might find that as you slow that down, you might discover a couple of things, saying, yeah, but this situation is different than my situation. Or was she able to, did she get time to talk to her doctor about this situation as mine is? Or did she have enough support? So you'll find the differences in those situations. Everything is not identical. And that may be helpful. So slowing it down, naming it for yourself, and then the most wonderful resource of all, to just tell your nervous system, oh, take a minute, is a deep breath. And unlike the deep breath that is taught in many programs to inhale deeply, in my case, I'm asking you to just let your breath leave your body very slowly, watching it leave. And even that is a great remedy for an escalated nervous system. It slows you down.
Great. We have another question from Zoe, and she's asking, how do you tap into your intuition as a mother to help zone out the noise that can often create fear and uncertainty?
I'm going to go the opposite way, Zoe. The intuition is always there. You peel off the layers of that noise. So, again, the three things. The first thing is to slow things down. Okay, I have heard this, I have seen this, I've been told this. Pause. It's a wonderful button that we have. Pause. Everything can wait. And in that pause, even if thoughts keep coming, say, I'm going to write you down because I'm going to attend to you later. So, not dismissing them. So that pause will allow you to name that particular situation, see what is difficult about it, what part really worries you, what things you can arrange to make them happy. You will find there will be an internal voice that will tell you, that will guide you. That is your intuition. So the same three remedies, if the minute you peel away the layers of the noise, the activation, myself. Yeah. Everything that can go wrong will
Yes.
go wrong in one way. So we're pausing it. We are naming that we are having technical troubles, and then we're thinking how we can keep going. What are our resources here? So carrying on. Yes, Tanvi.
So another question is, can you explain signs of labor? Obviously, it's not related to the topic, but just
But
quickly,
I
if you
do want
can,
to address it.
address
Yes,
this.
I do want
Yes.
to. I do want to. So again, if you notice, this question itself is a testament to where I started from, saying, okay, what do I need to do? What do I need to know? If you saw signs of labor, if all you needed to know is that this feels like a tightening on my belly and has been coming rhythmically, and it was feeling like this earlier, which was comfortable, I could handle it, but now I can't, and just observing that and seeing where it's going could be a great sign of labor, because that rhythmic tightening of your belly could be contractions. For some people who may see some, fluid come out, again, it's not like a particular start point. It's only in retrospective can we say that, oh, that must be the start of labor. Now, taking that example of contractions, if those contractions were happening but they were so mild that you were ignoring them, or the baby moves, it tightens many times a day, it tightens, I've not paid attention to it, was that the start of labor? I don't know, but perhaps it was. So it doesn't matter that start of labor. What matters is when you first observed a rhythm in your contractions and they were strong enough for you to take your attention from everything else and pay attention and cope with it. That you could say, yes, now I seem to have my body is showing signs that it is continuously doing the work that will open the uterus and the baby will come out. So that could be a sign of labor. And the other is that if you've had any kind of discharge, also evaluating this discharge, that if it is really thin and watery and it covers your, it soaks through your clothes, that could be that the membranes have released. But even if they have, everything else is okay, you're feeling well, baby is moving well, we still wait for those contractions. So truly the sign of labor is a mother now feeling a rhythm in those tightenings, in those contractions that are steady, and she knows from within that, oh yeah, this is something different than what usually happens. So that's my sign of labor. You could have mucus show, but these are not signs of labor. These are just signs that your baby is getting ready, your body is getting ready. So the baby turning head down, going into the pelvis, mucus show, Braxton Hicks contractions. These are just signs that you're getting ready. Truly sign of labor is those contractions that are coming rhythmically and are strong enough to get your attention. I would say that would be a sign of labor.
Great. Any more questions? Anyone? Ramya, I hope we were able to answer your question. Divya, can we also touch upon, since we've been talking about anxiety around, emotional support?
Yes.
Uh,
So, yes, thank you for bringing that up, Tanvi, because it's a part of my favorite topic again. So the same autonomic nervous system that has parasympathetic and sympathetic for humans has a third branch as well. Evolutionary, we were all reptiles, and so our movement was really restricted. And so our strategy to save ourselves was playing dead. And then when we had hands and feet, our strategy was mobilize. But now that we are human and we have language and we have connection, emotions and ability to relate, have beliefs, our greatest strength is to be able to connect. And so support, what does it really mean? Means I'm not alone, that I'm again going to be seen, heard, witnessed, and accepted for who I am. And the way we are designed for it is eye to eye contact. So, you know, when you're in a large crowd and you hear a familiar voice, what do you automatically do? Your head will rotate in that direction and try and look for that familiar face. When we talk to each other, what are we looking for? We are looking for facial expressions that are telling us, is this safe? Is this not safe? Again, it's doing its job. But the medium of connection or the medium of looking at it is to be able to do it through our faces, through our connection. So when we are having a supportive person with us, what would be their facial expressions? If I were, doesn't look very supportive to you, does it? But if I'm smiling, I'm nodding my head affirmatively, so there's so many non-verbal cueing that is going to saying that you're safe. And the minute that field becomes safe, that perception becomes safe, birth will express. So having a person there who is intending to support you and is using these mechanisms, these are natural mechanisms of relating to you, whether it is your partner, whether it is a doula, whether it's a family member, whether it is a care provider. Anybody who can make you feel or connect to you, eye to eye contact, the porosity of my voice, how I'm talking to you, the quality of my touch, it's the same thing. And it's also the same thing that the mother then gives to the baby to tell the baby that you're safe. Eye to eye contact, the way she talks to, and a lot of contact, touch, tactile stimulation is the same thing. So there you go. So support is a very big element in addressing that nervous system activation, and then thereby letting birth express the way nature has designed it. So yeah, birth is natural.
Great. Thank you for answering that. Gaya Ramaswamy is also asking, what does the blood show means and how long can we wait at our home after the show?
So I said mucus show, but it did become a blood show. And that also tells us our negative bias, how quickly our brain has now adjusted it. So the cervix is a long muscular tube, say like this. And then as the body is preparing to give birth, some activity is taking place in all the muscles, including this, which is now becoming softer, more riper, more pulpier. And when the contractions are happening randomly, which are called Braxton Hicks, which are pre-labor signs, then this might begin to change a little bit. Now that change nobody can predict, but with the looseness of this tube, which was our cervix, the adhesion for the mucus plug may not be there, and it may fall off, and it may fall off as a chunk, it may fall off in small bits. But also when this changes, some amount of capillaries may break, and that blood may find itself trapped in the mucus. So that is what the bloody part of the bloody show is, and that blood can be really fresh, and it can also be old dried blood, depending on what happened when in that sequence. And so, but also it's a great reminder to ourselves how quickly the word bloody came into this particular conversation, because you may have read it. It is called bloody show. Many times you read it, but it sticks with us. And one more thing, that's how pain instead of contractures and labor sticks with us, because our brain has a negative bias. So we are always expecting and looking for pain rather than just the functioning of the muscle.
Okay. Another question is, what's the difference between baby blues and postpartum anxiety and depression, and when should we ask for help?
So baby blues would be a neurological, neuroendocrine response to change and perception of your responsibilities, physical limitations. So there's a whole cocktail of stuff going on in the first 2 weeks. And you may find emotions on a high swing and a low swing. So it's emotional high swing, low swing, which I'm calling baby blues. And that is because hormones are changing, withdrawing. So some amount of withdrawal from a certain level of hormones, some amount of exhaustion in terms of, day and night waking or rhythms being off, some amount of overwhelm in terms of looking at this person, feeling that real rush of protection, and then kind of saying back, I'm responsible, and then again feeling. So it's not in your control kind of thing. And that's baby blues. And it can be up to 2 weeks. But if you're feeling extreme of those emotions past 2 weeks, that is a good time to ask for help. Because the whole process of experiencing this is also titrating it less and less. It's like you don't stop something immediately. It takes a while for it to recede away from your physical paradigm. But if it goes beyond 2 weeks, it definitely needs a consideration from a person who is trained to give care for that particular thing. But on the other hand, I'm also very careful of using the word depression loosely, because again, brain has a negative bias. When we are talking about it, we are planting seeds. These seeds take hold, but much faster. And so even if I may give a whole spiel about the whole thing, most people will take away the depression part and hold on to that. So yes, and more importantly, for partners and families to see how the woman is doing past in those 2 weeks, the rhythm of it, and then past those 2 weeks, if it's still there, we would need a little help.
Great. Thank you so much for answering that. Divya, also, could you just mention a few tools that one can use, to I don't know if you to use the word maintain the autonomic nervous system, but uh, to calm oneself down. And so, are there any tools that you can recommend
There are
to our
many
viewers?
tools. There are many tools in many modalities, and they arise from the same neuroscience. So the person in charge, or the nerve in charge here, is the vagus nerve. And the importance is not that you don't feel something negative or you don't feel positive. The issue we want to know is that are we capable of the escalation and de-escalation within a healthy range where it can happen on its own, which also then depends on what our experiences are, how much our support. So what our experiences are is giving us that range. It may change when we are already in a, so say in current times with the pandemic, everybody's range is a little bit decreased because there's
True.
an additional stress. So first thing is, how do we increase that range? So meditation is a great tool. Music is a great tool. So self-nurturing activities will increase the range. And then what are our resources? Our resources are also things that we know that support that activation, that make us feel safe. It could be family for some people. It could be me time for other people. It could be a place, particularly in your house. It could be a particular food. And I'm not talking junk food, because that's a activation response. So instead of getting activated and reaching out for high calorie, high salt food, or high sugar food, if you slow down, name it, saying, I'm feeling this way. Ask yourself, what do I need? Grounding, just planting your feet on the ground and feeling the texture of the support of Mother Earth, or where you're sitting. Also, if you just pay attention to how your spine is and take the simple task of imagining each vertebra, starting from your occiput, the tiny little vertebrae as they go down, and everything else that they touch, anything that slows things down. Or if you're feeling like you're activating but you're not quite there, how to discharge that activation could also be exercise. So yoga, for that matter, which includes exercising as well as meditation, can be a very good balm on the nervous system. And as you practice it, you add resources, so your resilience grows. Let's say, not unlike a little piggy bank where you put a little coin every day, but at the end of a month, you might have a larger resource. So basically, it isn't about what life is throwing at you. It's also about what your resource is, the credit and debit of it. And any activity that supports you in terms of feeling safe, enjoyment, being okay with yourself, being able to sit with yourself, or activation, which means releasing whatever is coming up as an activation energy, will be like a nervous system first aid, and that will help.
Great. So Divya, we also had one question wherein somebody was saying that due to this pandemic, if, people are not able to visit their doctors, go for ultrasound. So there's just general anxiety around that.
So,
So can you address that?
so a first question to ask you. So let's name it. Let's hold up, make it a pause. Okay, you can't meet your doctor. I'm going to take one example. You can't meet your doctor. Let's hold a pause there. That's a big subject. Then name it, saying, I can't go and see my doctor. That's my trigger right now. And then as you slow it down, you say, okay, so what are you going to address if you're meeting your doctor? So I want to know if I'm okay. I want to know if baby's okay. I want to know. So what else would you gain from that doctor's visit? Slow that down and find out for yourself. And then say, okay, what informs me that I'm okay? The doctor or me? For everybody, not just pregnant women, when we feel unwell, we seek a doctor, agreed. But who informs us that we are unwell, the doctor or ourselves? We are the ones who know that something is not right, and then we go. And then, of course, we get treated, which makes us very skillful for getting our, things that we need to take care of ourselves. So it's really important. In this particular case, we slow it down and say, what informs us is the baby's okay? Movements. What informs us that we are okay? Do I sleep well? Do I have a good appetite? Do I feel myself not losing time in terms of like, oh, my mind is so occupied? Or is it occupied? I'm reading a book and I can truly engross in that book. Then I'm okay. If my defense system can drop enough to enjoy a book, then I'm okay. Do I seek social company? Do I like to be alone with myself? And if I can do both relatively well, then I'm okay. Because remember, if the nervous system is cycling really well in activation and deactivation, normal life will unfold. So I want to find those resources within me, saying what informs me. And having said that, do I really need to meet my doctor? Maybe I can make a call. Is there a specific medical thing that needs to be done? Maybe a blood test needs to be done. How can I organize that? These are ways of then, taking charge of that situation. And when we feel in charge, when we feel, okay, I can handle this, that's when we feel safe. And there goes the anxiety. The anxiety around it drops. But the point with anxiety is that we don't pause, we don't name, and we don't evaluate these things, and therefore it keeps on escalating.
Great. Thank you for answering that. Any other questions anyone has? We're happy to take them now.
Interestingly, when we named the technical glitches, they went away, much like the nervous system restore.
Correct. But this video is also going to be there on IGTV as a recording, so for anyone who wants to view it later. So thank you so much, everyone who joined us this afternoon. If there is anything that you would add to what we have spoken.
No, I just say thank you for being patient with us.
Thank you so much. As you all know, that this is a part of our series of Talking Tuesdays. We love to hear from you. Your experiences, your views. This Talking Tuesdays is basically to hear you out. So it's something that, okay, we have one question, sorry, before we end. Gaya Ramaswamy is asking that I'm pregnant with my second child. I had PPD with my first baby. Is there any way to get rid of it now?
Okay, so a couple of things that arise from it. Was the diagnosis of postpartum depression by a care provider? Was it by a person who is skilled to evaluate it into depression? Because depression is used as very loosely. That's one part of it. But the second part of it, how are you doing now? Is there a medication involved? If not, how you're feeling now? How do you view your life circumstances now? What can you do to resource yourself now? And then realizing in case it is, because depression also has a neurochemistry to it, and if you realize that there is a bit of an imbalance in that neurochemistry and you're arriving at that point, getting help at the right time. So it is not something that you need to get rid of. So from the world's perspective, when we look at it, we feel that, oh, it makes us non-functional, but actually it's the body telling us that I've arrived at a place where functioning is no longer an option for me. And so how do we then meet the body's need at that point, whether it is with medication, whether it is with resources that we talked of. All of those things will become very unique for you, Gaya. But keeping an eye on it, knowing where you're coming from. So if you are in a very good situation emotionally right now, you're happy with this pregnancy, a lot of that can help, in predicting where it may be going. But since you say you did have it first, then keeping an eye on it, finding that time for yourself, nurturing your nervous system, finding the resources that support you. Good support is very important, because the things with depression is that postpartum, most people ignore it. The focus goes immediately on the baby. The woman is, we are stretched to our limit in many ways that way. That is how, after stretching to that limit, is how we grow a human baby. So nurturing yourself basically, and keeping an eye and thinking that you are important, at least for you, at least for the baby. For the baby, you are the most important person. So, sometimes we begin to feel that we are not important anymore, but we are. In fact, for that newborn, you are the most important person. So if you feel the slightest bit of those signs and symptoms, seeking help, but pulling up all your resources around you, friends, family, good food, foods that help neurochemistry, things like that will all help go a long way to not fall into that this time.
I hope that answers your question there. We have one more question which we'll take before we end, is by Naruti. Naruti is asking, do you suggest Lamaze breathing techniques during labor pains or any other sort of meditation?
I'd say that if Lamaze, you've done the Lamaze classes, you practice them, when you work with them, they make you feel better. You've had an experience of the efficacy of whatever breathing pattern you use, whether Lamaze or any other. If you feel that efficacy, that experience will be your bedrock, not just the breathing itself. So, are you practicing that on a daily basis? Are you finding, when are you practicing it? So a lot of people practice their childbirth class breathing morning and evening. That's the time you're already relaxed. Are you doing it as a life skill? Like every time my phone beeps, I do 2 breaths. What are those breaths directed at? So, any breathing that you have learned in a class, otherwise yoga, will work for you if you have had and you've invested in the lived experience of it. If in the lived experience it has not worked really well, then the next question will not be whether it works or doesn't work, will be what can I tweak it with to make it work. But to think that somebody has something outside of you that will give you that skill, it will not integrate to you till you have experienced it and made it your own. So whatever breathing you do, whatever meditation you do, so if you're doing a particular guided relaxation, do it every day. Then see the days that there are some days that you can go to sleep with it, and some days you'll just get a little bit calmer, and then maybe even a day where it doesn't work. But then you'll see large part, then if this isn't working, what else will work? So you're shoring up those resources even in labor, even for labor, through your body, through an experience, by training your nervous system that this is the experience, it works, this is the experience, it works. So many layered experiences of its work. It works for me, will work for you.
Great. Niruti is also asking, which exercises do you suggest for the last trimester, especially in pandemic when we cannot go out for a walk? Niruti, you will be able to find the exercises on our platform as well, www.mychildfirst. So you'll be able to look for yoga. You'll be able to find yoga poses, some exercises that you can do at home.
Yeah, but also it's unfair for me to just say this exercise will work like that. That's again outside your body. Even if I were to talk about exercises, I would talk about from the point of view of what doing this particular movement does in the body, right? But walking, is the greatest exercise anybody can say for pregnancy. Not a brisk walk. You're not doing cardiovascular. We are trying to mobilize, lubricate, and understand all the joints of the pelvis and give ourselves that, discharge mechanism for any kind of activity will be a discharge mechanism for an activation response. So including any kind of mobility, whether it's dancing, whether it's moving your hips, whether it's walking, would be a great way of preparing for birth as well, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Divya. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We will be announcing our next topic for the Talking Tuesdays in a few days. Please look it up on our Insta handle. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
and thank you.